All right, folks, we have a very important video to discuss today: how nations are stockpiling the world's Bitcoin. Bitcoin's role in global finance has shifted dramatically over the past decade. Once dismissed as a speculative tool for tech enthusiasts, it has now become an asset held by major governments around the world. Whether through law enforcement seizures, long term strategies, or even national mining operations, governments are increasingly treating Bitcoin as part of their financial toolkit. The first up, United States. The United States has emerged as the largest government holder of Bitcoin. Much of this stash originally came from high profile seizures in criminal cases, but the approach changed very recently when President Trump signed an executive order creating a strategic Bitcoin reserve. This move transformed Bitcoin from a seized asset waiting to be auctioned into a cornerstone of U.S. economic strategy. Next up is China. China, despite its well documented restrictions on private cryptocurrency use, is another top government holder of Bitcoin. Most of its supply also came from seizures, particularly during the crackdowns on fraudulent schemes and exchanges. Now, while Beijing remains cautious about retail adoption, its Bitcoin holdings provide the government with a significant reserve of digital wealth. This contradiction, restricting everyday use while holding a large reserve, underscores how even skeptical governments are unwilling to ignore Bitcoin's potential role in future financial systems. Next up is Europe. The United Kingdom has accumulated holdings through enforcement actions, while countries like Finland and Georgia have kept smaller reserves. Interestingly, Ukraine, still navigating the financial strains of war, has accepted donations in Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies, turning digital assets into a lifeline of foreign support. And this highlights Bitcoin's flexibility as a state reserve and a global fundraising tool. Next up is El Salvador and Bhutan. Some smaller nations are experimenting with Bitcoin in more unconventional ways. El Salvador famously became the first country to adopt Bitcoin as legal tender, continuing to buy more despite mixed reviews from global institutions. Meanwhile, the tiny Himalayan kingdom of Bhutan has tapped into its abundant hydropower resources to mine Bitcoin directly, building a surprisingly large reserve relative to its size. Both countries illustrate how Bitcoin can play different roles depending on local circumstances, whether as a symbol of sovereignty, a way to diversify the economy, or simply a means of participating in the digital future. Folks, the fact that governments collectively hold hundreds of thousands of Bitcoin is a turning point. It cements cryptocurrency's role in geopolitics, finance, and economic strategy. Whether through international policy, or intentional policy like in the US and El Salvador, or through reluctant accumulation like in China and the UK, governments are acknowledging Bitcoin's growing weight on the global stage. What was once a grassroots experiment is now a sovereign asset. And as more nations consider their stance, Bitcoin's journey from niche technology to state level reserve may prove to be one of the most defining financial shifts of our time. So go invest in some crypto, but don't forget, you should not be doing the risky if you could not take the frisky. Thank you, folks.